a federal judge last night ordered a halt to the implementation of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, a stop to the discharges, a stop to the investigations affecting U.S. military personnel worldwide. Now, nobody exactly knows what the impact of that ruling is, but what's your reaction to what is a landmark step toward ending this policy? What's been the reaction among other people you know in the military?
It's cautious optimism, to use that term. It's exciting. I think everybody agrees that it would, in a perfect world, it would have been nice to have this accomplished in Congress. Don't Ask, Don't Tell was developed in Congress and in conjunction with the administration at the time. So it seems only right that would be the way to undo it as well, and that would be the correct way. However, this country has 3 branches of government, and they're all equal. And one of the roles of the judicial government or judicial branch is to ensure equal rights for everybody and to right a wrong where a wrong has been made. And I think what we're seeing finally is that judges are seeing where Don't Ask, Don't Tell is wrong, and it does not enhance good order and discipline in military units, and that's why the ruling is what it is. So, to answer your question, we'll take it in the courts if that's the way it has to happen, and then hopefully Congress will come around later.
How do you feel about President Obama's leadership on this issue?
Lacking, to be straightforward. It's frustrating to see so much emphasis, and it is an important issue. The healthcare issue was a very important issue, and I was glad to see that get through. And he showed leadership there and really did a lot to get a very difficult bill through. But it's frustrating to see a lack. We hear the words, but we don't see the action. And it's frustrating to not see any true action from the White House on this issue, pressuring Congress and Senate, especially when the defense authorization bill was voted on, to not see the president come out and really throw his support behind it, and to try to pressure the Senate to act on it. So it's frustrating. In light of this ruling yesterday, is there something that, if you could wave a magic wand, if you could make a policy decision for the White House right now, what would you want to see the president do? Instruct the Justice Department to not appeal the decision. Once that is done, and I hate to use the word Pandora's box because that is a negative connotation, but that's open. Regardless of what happens in 2012 with the presidential elections, if we will have gone 2 years without Don't Ask, Don't Tell, you can't put that back in the box. You can't put people back in the closet. So to think that another president will come along and undo it, I think it would be very difficult. It's not to say that they wouldn't try, but if you have thousands of people in your military who are already out and have been out for 2 years, you're not going to be able to put them back in the closet. So I would say let it ride and let the appeal, or do not appeal it, and let the judge's decision go as is. Our exclusive interview today with a combat veteran F-16 fighter pilot whose identity we agreed to shield because his private sexual orientation is still a fireable offense in America. I also spoke today with an F-15 fighter pilot, a decorated combat veteran, an Air Force Academy graduate who has and who continues to serve in very demanding, high prestige positions in the United States Air Force.
It really doesn't work. As I've said, I have already come out to several people in my unit, and I've had 100% positive response from people that I've told. But every time I do that or someone else does that, it puts them in legal jeopardy. So there are already gay service members. Obviously, there have been gay service members since the beginning of time in the military. And we are just putting those people in a situation that they can get themselves in trouble. And why is their service any less valuable than a straight service member? I don't think once repeal happens that there's going to be a big outcry in the military that is going to make this difficult to implement. There will be some people that will have issues with serving with openly gay and lesbian service members, but there are people that have issues anytime the military does something, and that's not a reason to keep a flawed policy in place.
Do you feel like individual service members coming out and telling their story about how this policy affects them makes a difference toward the end of the policy?
Absolutely it does. I was very excited about Judge Phillips' ruling, and it moves us one step forward, but all of these steps are with individual people that have to come out, and either they're forced out or they choose to come out and try and push the issue forward. And if we don't have people that continue to do this, I'm worried that that the process could stall. We've already seen that happen in the Senate, and the White House, quite frankly, in my personal opinion, hasn't pushed it with enough leadership. So I think we have to continue to take individual responsibility to try and repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
What would adequate leadership, in your opinion, look like from the White House? What do you want from them?
I would like if the president, first of all, would come out more vociferously in a public forum about his opposition to Don't Ask, Don't Tell. He's done that on a couple of occasions in the media. But the other thing that he can do is push the Senate to act. He didn't take a very rabid leadership stance on the defense appropriations bill when it was up a few weeks ago, and now he seems to be sitting by when the lame duck session starts, and he says he expects the Senate to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell at that time, but I'm not confident that they're ready to do that. The other thing that I think the president could do is just issue an executive order that at the very least provides a moratorium for discharging gay and lesbian service members until the policy is repealed by Congress. Do
you think that a moratorium like that, an announcement of a moratorium like that, would be disruptive in the military? The military is engaged in this study right now of how they would repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell if it is to be repealed. That's due in just a few weeks, December 1st. Would a stay essentially of the policy be chaotic in the military?
I don't think it would be, Rachel. I think everyone knows that this policy is on its way out the door. It's just a question of timing, really. But it's important for the president to take a leadership role in this, and there are people that are facing discharge at this very moment. So why are we waiting another few weeks, or it's been years now since the president said to Victor Fehrenbach, we're going to get this done. Why do we need to wait another month, 2 months, when we have service members that are at risk of discharge at this very moment? Everyone knows the policy is on its way out. The military, I think, is prepared for it, and I honestly don't think it's going to make that big of a difference in individuals' lives in the military.
Let me ask you about something that was released in response to this ruling yesterday. There's a group called OutServe, which is essentially a network of gay service personnel. Yeah. Obviously, that has to be.
I belong to it.
As you know, closeted network by necessity because of this policy. OutServe put out a press release in response. An active duty co-director who goes by a pseudonym is the person who's quoted here because I can't use their name. And the quote is this: "We are hearing through our networks that troops think that DADT is done. They're reading the headlines and there's a general feeling that it's over. Our underground is reporting that straight soldiers are inadvertently outing their gay friends. Gay service members are thinking it's okay to come out. Some commanders are giving confusing guidance because they've seen repeated reports that the courts have declared the policy unconstitutional." Does that resonate with you? Is that what you think the impact of this ruling has been and is going to be?
Absolutely, and I think one of the dangers is that we do have a lot of younger service members, young airmen, young Marines, young soldiers, that maybe hear of a ruling that issues an injunction against the military for discharging people, not knowing that that ruling can be appealed by the Department of Justice, and they may put themselves in jeopardy by coming out to people in their units or to their commanders when the policy hasn't actually been repealed yet. And it worries me that we have this kind of nebulous policy right now with the courts saying one thing, Congress completely not acting, and DOD is kind of in a place where individual service members can put themselves in jeopardy because there is no clear guidance right now.
So is that why you think that a moratorium announced from the White House would create clarity, would remove that
Absolutely,
risk?
Absolutely.
In terms of your decision making about this, you do have a very high-flying career in the Air Force. You have also made a decision to do this interview. You've also, as I understand it, written to United States senators using your name, essentially outing yourself and making clear your position on this policy. Why have you done that?
Again, I think it's important that each individual take responsibility for something that directly affects their lives. I did send three letters to 3 individual senators that have been active on both sides of this issue. Obviously, I don't want to name who those are because I think it puts my identity at jeopardy. I haven't received a response from any of those 3 senators, not even a thank you for your email or thank you for your letter. And I did identify myself in all of those letters to the senators. It's disappointing that the Senate just has not been able to act at this point.
Do you think that you're courting being discharged from the Air Force for having done that, though?
I think I'm putting myself at risk, and I'm putting myself at risk by doing this interview today, even though it's in shadow. But again, I think it's important for me to take responsibility for something that directly affects my life.
What does the military lose? What does the country lose if you are kicked out of the military, if you're kicked out of the Air Force because of this policy?
Well, they're going to lose a 14-year veteran of the Air Force, very experienced F-15 pilot, an instructor. I've been an instructor at several bases around the world, combat veteran, and someone that they've spent millions of dollars on. But regardless of the money, if they lost me, other gay service members, we are the ones that are training the young service members coming up now, and so they'd lose a lot of experience that they would have to completely start over with.
Are you prepared, with the activism that you've engaged in thus far, are you prepared to lose your career over this issue?
I've obviously thought about the consequences of some of my activism, and that's why I've taken some of the precautions as far as shadow, etc. But yes, if the Air Force decided to investigate me and I lost my career, I'd be prepared to accept those consequences. I think it'd be foolish to come into something like this without thinking about the consequences ahead of time.
What would happen if a moratorium were announced? What would happen for you if the policy was repealed or the policy was effectively ended pending an expected repeal? What would change in your life? What would you do differently? How would you come out?
In my day-to-day life in the squadron, it wouldn't change my life that much. I'm not going to walk into the squadron and announce to everyone that I'm homosexual. I quite frankly think that your sexuality belongs outside of the workplace and shouldn't be in the workplace anyway. But at least I've already told a few close friends in the squadron, and at least with people that I choose to tell, that I choose to trust, I would not have then that legal jeopardy hanging over my head that I could lose my career for maybe someone that I misjudged that I thought I could trust and told that they could then turn me in. At least I wouldn't have that legal jeopardy hanging over my head every day.
Do you feel that legal jeopardy, that sort of lurking threat to your career? Do you feel it every day? Does it cause stress?
Absolutely, absolutely. It causes quite a bit of stress. I think, as a pilot, we're trained to compartmentalize our thoughts, so it doesn't affect my job on a day-to-day basis as far as being a fighter pilot, but it causes stress every day. When you do get investigated or when someone does make a statement, it causes stress either in the form of discomfort or in the fact that you could lose your career.
As a gay man who is serving in the Air Force right now, if the policy didn't exist, obviously the policy creates all sorts of stress and injustice under which you are living, but if the policy doesn't exist, do you think that the military is a good career, a positive service, a positive public service choice for people who are gay?
Absolutely. I think it's been a great life for me, and I really appreciate everything that the military has given to me, not just the training, but the confidence, and it's allowed me to serve my country, which was very important to me when I was in high school. I see high school kids now that lately we've had a rash of gay bashings, gay suicides, and I look at these kids and think about if I was in their shoes when I was 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. It does make a difference that the government has a policy that says you are not good enough to serve in the U.S. military. And I think that that's a terrible message that the government is sending to society, and it's sending to these young people. Obviously, it doesn't directly contribute to the gay suicides that we've seen lately, but if you have a government that tells you that you're not as good as someone else, it's a bad message to send.
Well, Major, thank you. Thank you for your service, and thank you for making the decision to do this interview. I know that it is not an easy decision, so I'm really grateful for your time, sir. We shielded the identities of these 2 Air Force majors today, both combat veteran fighter pilots, because they are both liable to be fired from the military. Yes, even now, even after that court ruling, because of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Please stay with us.